Today we are in Gravesend for the penultimate BHPC event of the season. It is starting with a 15-minute race. Dave Minter on his tricycle is powering ahead. Gemma Foley in her fully faired bike has trouble getting started. It looks like she's having some technical issues that might compromise her race. After the first lap, Dave Minter on his tricycle is leading the race, ahead of Judy Swallow on her ice trice. A big group of riders is following around 10 seconds later. Gemma Foley in her fully faired bike is in last place because of the start. Dave Minter on his tricycle has a lead of a few seconds. Peter Hudson on his prototype trike seems to have taken the third place, ahead of Martin Kiesel on his windshield trike. For now, Dave Minter is in first place. Judy Swallow is in second place, and Peter Hudson is in third place. Rob Womack and James Futrell are battling for the N-Cycles classification. That kind of race is hard to follow as a spectator, because after a few minutes, it is difficult to figure out who is ahead and who is lapped. Gemma Foley has removed the fairing from her bike. James Futrell has taken the lead of the N-Cycles classification, ahead of Rob Womack. Peter Hudson on his prototype trike is now catching up with Judy Swallow on her ice trice. Dave Minter on his tricycle is still leading the race, but Peter Hudson on his prototype trike seems to be catching up as he has taken the second place. Judy Swallow on her ice trice is now in third place. Rob Womack seems to have taken back the lead of the N-Cycles classification. Peter Hudson on his prototype trike now has Dave Minter in his line of sight, but the race is very short, so he may not be able to catch up for the first place. That oval track is more scary than it looks. There is no banking, so high-speed turning can be challenging, especially when overtaking people. Slash in the Bino Streamliner, who is the fastest of us, went off track 1 year for that reason. That kind of things is less likely to happen in the slower race, as the speeds are not high enough for the turns to be dangerous. This is the last lap. Peter Hudson has now caught up with Dave Minter on his tricycle. James Futrell has taken the lead of the N-Cycles classification, ahead of Rob Womack. Peter Hudson on his prototype trike has taken the lead in the last lap and has won the race. Dave Minter on his tricycle takes the second place. James Cottrell on his carbon uncycles takes the first place of the uncycles classification. Now is the time for the faster race. I'm not having a very good start as I'm having trouble clipping into the pedals. Quite a few riders are taking that opportunity to get ahead of me. I have some work to do to get back to a good place. It is not the greatest track to overtake. I need to somehow overtake John Lucian on his Pelso Brevet on the right, Andrew Sidwell on his Rat Racer on the left. I'm not yet used to the turns, so overtaking is challenging. That's it, I'm finally getting past John Lucian on his Pelso Brevet. Now I am overtaking Dan Bergonzi on his Raptor bike Low Racer. Now I am overtaking Andrew Sidwell on his Rat Racer. I now need to catch up with Joren Farber on his M5 Low Racer. That's it, I have caught up with Joren on his M5 Low Racer. And we are lapping some other riders, which does slow us down. I have to overtake on the inside as Dan Bergonzi on his Low Racer and Tim McDonald in his Milan SL Velomobile are blocking the outside. Now I am lapping Andy Foray in his fully faired King Cycle bike. We are being lapped by Slash in the Bino Streamliner. I am launching an attack. I'm lapping Nigel Slee on his Fujian Low Racer. And I'm being lapped by Russell Bridge in his Snoopy Streamliner. I'm lapping Kim Wall on their Optima Perron Low Racer. The attack is not really successful, as Joren is still in touching distance. Plus I am being slowed down by a group of back markers, so Joren will have no trouble getting back. Overtaking velomobiles on this track is difficult, as they take very wide turns. And Joren on his M5 Low Racer is back on my wheel. He's overtaking me as I am getting tired. Russell Bridge in his newbie streamliner is lapping us once again. We are lapping John Lucian on his Pelso Brevet. On Tim McDonald, his Milan SL Velomobile once again. We are lapping Nigel Lee on his Fujin Low Racer yet again. And then Kim Wall on her Optima Baron Low Racer. That's it. I am launching another attack. The bell is not yet ringing, so I'll have to hold that pace for several laps. Slash in the Bino streamliner is lapping me again. He's going to win the race as usual. It is actually lucky he overtook me in his last lap. Otherwise, I would have had to do another lap. I am taking the maximum points for the unfair and partially fair classification and ends up in 4th place. Now is the time for the one-lap time trial. It is on a bigger circuit than in the previous race. I'm not starting very well, as I'm having trouble clipping into the pedals. The first part of the circuit is a fairly straight descent. The challenge is that there is a turn at the bottom of the hill, so it is not really possible to go at full speed. In a previous year, one of the Velomobile tumbled off track in that turn, so it might be better to be careful. I'm not taking too much speed in the descent. I'm even using the brakes. The next turn is less challenging, and it is even possible to pedal while cornering. Then there is another reasonably sharp turn. It is difficult to assess the ideal speed for that kind of turns. There are still 2 reasonably sharp turns before the finish line. I'm not really using the brakes, but I am trying not to gain too much speed. The next turn somehow feels even sharper. Finally, I am finished with the challenging turns. Now I have to climb the small hill, which is far less stressful. The climb is not really much slower than the descent. Unluckily, I'm catching up with the previous rider. That's going to slow me down ever so slightly, as I will catch up with him in the middle of the turn. Somehow, I am getting the 4th place, behind the 2 fastest streamliners and John Lucian on his Pelso Brevet. Now is the time for the 90-minute race, using the same circuit as before in the same direction. My start is better than in the time trial. I am launching an attack straight away, and I am taking the lead. My speedometer stopped working for some reason, but it looks faster than in the one-lap time trial. The GPS is still somehow getting the position. Derek Tudor in the Yellow Donkey streamliner is in 2nd place. Slash in the Bino streamliner is in 3rd place. I'm not really losing any time in the turn. Slash in the Beano streamliner is overtaking Derek Swiddle in the Yellow Donkey streamliner. Slash in the Beano streamliner is overtaking me to take the lead. Russell Bridge in the Snoopy streamliner has taken the third place. Russell Bridge in the Snoopy streamliner is overtaking me. He actually seems to have a better bike handling than me. Here comes my favorite part of the track, uphill and without any annoying turn. I am overtaking Russell Bridge in the Snoopy streamliner. But then we are back downhill and with the annoying turns. And he is overtaking me for good. Very quickly, I end up lapping slower riders, as everybody is in the same race. There is no split between a slower race and a faster race. Martin Kiesel on his Winchester trike has overcooked the turn, but fortunately, there is no harm done. I am lapping Kim Wall on her Optima Baron low racer. Then I am lapping Gemma Foray in her fully faired Festina bike. Somehow she fixed the issue she had in the first race. And I am already lapped by Slash in the Beano streamliner. Maybe I was speaking too quickly. Both Gemma Foray and Andy Foray seem to have issues. And apparently it got resolved as I am lapping her. Here, I'm lapping Tim Mac in his Milan SL Velomobile. The Velomobiles are quite restricted on this circuit, so they don't have that much of an advantage as usual. But Slash in the Beano streamliner is still faster than everybody else. I'm lapping Rob Womack on his hand cycle and Kim Wall on her Optima Baron low racer. Then Melvin Friend on his King cycle. Then Dan Bergonzi on his Raptor bike low racer, Dave Minter on his tricycle, and then I am lapping Derek Twiddle in his Yellow Donkey streamliner. That's not really a nice overtake for me, as I end up in the wrong trajectory in the turn, so I get dangerously close to him. The next challenge is to lap Martin Kiesel on his Winchester trike, while having Derek Twiddle on my wheel. But I am very much aware that Johan Farver on his M5 low racer is chasing me for the championship points, and he is catching up with me a few hundred meters later, and he seems to be faster than me. Russell Bridge in his Snoopy streamliner is lapping us. Johan seems to be getting away. After 20 kilometers, I'm not yet comfortable with the turns, and Johan is gaining ground at each challenging turn. There is still over 1 hour left. At last, I am reaching the hill, and I can try to get back to him. I am safely back on his wheel. Unfortunately, the camera will run out of battery before the end. Slash in the Beano Streamliner will win the race. Russell Bridge in the Snoopy Streamliner will be in second place. I will successfully get ahead of Joren Farver on his M5 Low Racer by launching a long-range attack quite a long way from the end. So I will end up in third place, ahead of Joren Farver on his M5 Low Racer.